Oh, all right. Well, everyone, it's time to create a language. So I assume no one here has created a language before. So we're going to start off with the basics. Phonology, that's the sounds. The phonology it, consists of each sound in a language can either be a consonant or vowel. If it's a consonant, there's a place of articulation and a manner of articulation. The place of articulation is where in the mouth it's produced. So you can either do it bilabial with both your lips, labiodental, that is with your teeth and your lips, like the F sound in English. It can be uh, apical, which is with the tip of your tongue, and that can either be dental, which is the tip of your tongue against your teeth, alveolar, which is the tip of your tongue against the alveolar ridge, which is the ridge in the mouth just behind your teeth. It can also, or it can also be palatal. There's also velar consonants. That is, that is uh, the sounds made with your back, with the back of your tongue, like the K sound k, G sound g, or the ch sound in German. There are also uh, glottal sounds like the H sound h, and the glottal stop, as in the sound in the between the and the o and o. The manner of articulation is how the sound is made. For instance, you can make uh, for instance, if you completely stop the flow of air with your mouth, a stop or a plosive. If you don't stop the air, but just create a lot of turbulence, what you have is called a fricative. So named because you're creating a lot of friction for the air. If you stop the air, but then release it into a fricative, um, an example of a stop is a p, t, k, b, d, g. Fricative is like p, s, um, f, v, those sorts of sounds. Uh, uh, if you start out by completely blocking the sound, but then go into uh, letting some of blocking the air and then letting some of it release, it's an affricate. So an example of that in English would be the ch or j sounds. They start with a t and then transition, start with a t or a d and then transition into a sh or a j. T, 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 dj. Um, there are also nasal consonants. That's like your m, your n, and also your ing. That's the sound at the end of words like sing or ring or the suffix ing. And then there are proximants. Uh, this is, um, for instance, your sounds like uh, like uh, like in like what Spanish does to the consonants in the middle of words. They become approximants. They're not all but consonants, just stops and some figures become approximants. Uh, so that's like your your V sound. Not like this, not the W sound. It's a slightly different sound. But you also have your semivowels. That's your y and W sounds. That that was the English W sound. You also have taps, taps. That's like your r sound, like the or like the sound in the middle of the English letter, or the Spanish single R. We also have trills. This one is the one that English speakers complain a lot about because this is like the rolled R, ra, ra. But there's also other sort of trills like the bilabial trill, blah, blah, or French, the French R sound is a uvular trill. Blah, blah, blah. That one is a bit difficult to make. Not really, but it's um, and uvular is another place of articulation. I just didn't put it here because we're not going to have any more sounds. Probably going to have most. All right, and then there's also liquids. Those are sounds that are not here. They're like not like L sounds. La, 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 la. They're not really taps or flaps or approximates, but that are sort of close to those. And so sometimes the uh, uh, various sounds um, get lumped. Sometimes these get compressed and lumped together. Excuse me one second. Never mind. Okay. Okay. All right. I think that should be good now. All right. So now we're going to decide what kind of sounds we want in our language. So to do that, we're going to make a chart. Oh, one more thing I should say about the manner of articulation. You can either have a voice manner of articulation, voiceless. Voiced is means that your vocal cords are vibrating when you make the sound. Like your duh, duh, buh. Voiceless consonant is when your vocal cords are not vibrating. So your buh, duh, duh, suh, duh, ch. So we want some nasals, some plosive, and I'm not gonna put a lot. So no, I'm gonna put voiceless. Um, so technically, we could also go for an aspirated, an aspirated versus voiceless distinction like Mandarin does. But I'm just going for voiceless voice because that is more intuitive to English speakers. It's the majority of violence. So, let's see. We want some fricatives. Uh, um, yeah, so we have our fricatives are closer to me. So, okay, so we're going to have some affricates. But I'm not going to put that here because we're actually going to put the affricates in the closest section, and I'll explain why when we get to it. Let's see, do taps or flats. True. So we're going to have the tapped R like in Spanish. And a lot of other things. Italian, uh, Japanese. Um, Japanese. Right. So let's see. Let's just. There is no labia. There is no labiodental version of. So we're actually going to combine bilabial and dental to just one category. Labial, just maybe the lips. And that's because. And we're going to. Actually, no, we're going to keep that dental. Dental fricatives. Those are your th sounds, your th sounds. Um, those are one feature that is relatively rare among languages, but also interestingly somewhat common among very highly spoken languages because it exists in both English, Arabic, and some dialects of Spanish. Very interesting. There's no, we're not going to have a dental nasal, so we're also going to have the alveolar nasal. No, palatal nasal. And we're going to have that. We're going to write that with Spanish ñ, velar nasal. Yeah, we're going to write that ng, same way it's written in English. And there is no such thing as a glottal nasal. That does not exist, right? Let's see. Plosive, voiceless, puh, no dental plosive. So I'm actually going to get rid of the dental section because and then this is how goes here. This we're not. This is going to be where our African chism, because a lot of times in a lot of languages, T, T or K get palatalized, they turn into a ch sound. And while they stop, we're going to write with apostrophe, like it's written in Hawaiian and some other languages. But, yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, now hopefully that should stay there. Now, okay, yeah, gotta put a space for it. Otherwise, Sheets does not let me. Let's see. So actually, I'm gonna not have. We're gonna do a thing. We're gonna not have. We're gonna have no voices, no voice fricatives, no, no voice. So we have F. Then we have uh, and, S. Or that's a thorn. F and S. So sometimes you'll see two different sounds written in the same box. That means that they're slightly different sounds, but there's not enough reason to make separate boxes for them. These uh, Now we're not using the International Phonetic Alphabet, which is the standard for how you write these sorts of things. But that's just because it's a pain in the butt to type it. Uh, how for those, I don't have any of those. And we're gonna write, actually, no, we're going to write that as KH because we're going with the standard fantasy one, which is, so, or actually, not going to write that with NY. Okay, we have our fricatives. And the reason I decided to go with voiceless fricatives is because I felt like it. That's it. Let's see, back. Okay, come on in. So the rest, so we have our, so liquids can also sometimes include the taps and flaps and approximants and whatnot. So we're going to have L sound. We're also going to have our, our, our R sound. What, yeah, what, and yes sound. So this phonology is relatively similar to English. You see a lot of similarities between this and English. The R sounds are different. English doesn't have the ch sound uh, or the yeah sound. Other than that, this is very similar to English. There's a reason for that. Again, my audience, also English speakers, want to make this easy for them to follow all, all uh, not that y'all couldn't follow something more complicated, but I want to make it simple enough for y'all to not have to focus so hard on. Okay, cases are the things you do to nouns to make them give you more information about them. So English has two cases: the common case and the genitive case. We also singular. So we also write nouns for singular versus plural. So for an example, I'm going to choose a word within regular: child. So in the common case, singular is just child, and that's the citation form. That's what you'll see in a dictionary. Plural form, children. Genitive form. That's also that's in English grammar known also as the possessive. So child's. Now in English, it's marked with an apostrophe s, but the apostrophe doesn't actually make a sound. And then the genitive plural is children's. So you can see that these are actually the four forms that you have a noun take in English. You can also see this more commonly with uh, more easily with pronouns as well. Um, for instance, let's say it. Yeah, it's a there. You can see there's four forms. Now, these forms and these forms don't look anything alike, whereas in here, they actually do. Um, and that's a process we'll go over when we're talking more about grammar and some other things. So English pronouns actually have a lot more cases than just that. So, for example, let's talk about the pronoun I. So it has the nominative case. That's when it's singular. So that's when you use it as the subject of a sentence. So I or we. It also has the accusative case. So that's me, us. Also has the genitive case. So that's my or mine. And then the plural also has the genitive our or ours. Um, so what you see here, the reason that there's two forms in the genitive is mostly for historical reasons, because the word my actually it used to always be mine, but then that in sometimes got added on to the start of the next word. For instance, the nickname Edward, actually came from this process. So you have mine Ed, right? So like a father saying, mine Ed, and my Ned. Uh, you also have the reverse process. For instance, uh, the word adder, as in the snake, used to be natter, and the word apron used to be napron. So sometimes the end gets added on, sometimes it gets removed. Uh, so yes, but a natter became an adder, or a napron became an apron. A little English fact for you. But so this is a so I like this case system, but I actually want one more. It's dative, and dative is used for the direct object, or used for like saying something is to something, and ablative, that's saying something is from something. This case system is relatively normally sized for a European language with cases. It's uh, similar to Latin cases, although Latin also has the uh, vocative case, which we're not going to have, and uh, rarely, but sometimes has a locative case. So vocative is when you're saying like this is the name of something. So like in uh, Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, et tu Brute, Brute, because Caesar is addressing Brutus with his name, is in the vocative case. The locative case just means like pertaining to location. It means like at or near. So singular and plural, I think, is probably fine. Um, yeah. Anyone have any opinions on that? All right. If no one has any opinions on that, these will be the cases that we keep. I'm not going to go. Right, I'm not going to make forms for these quite yet because I want to make a few example words. Oh no, totally forgot. Uh, we need to make our vowels. Vowels. So vowels. All right. So they can be so vowels exist on two spectrums, right? So there's the open close spectrum, right? And that's theoretically supposed to be how much you open your mouth. And then there's the front back system or front back axis. Right? And that's how far to the front versus the back of your mouth your tongue is. So E is the open front vowel. Right? We're going to write that with I. U is the open back vowel. I'm going to write that with U. Right? And then the we're also going to make the E sound. That's going to be, which is like the German which is how we're going to write it. The E sound. That is uh, also an open front vowel. What's the difference between E and E? Is that when you make the E sound, you don't round your lips, but when you make the U sound, you do. It's the difference between those two sounds. Uh, so the U sound, you make rounding your lips, but the Japanese U sound, don't round your lips. Although I believe modern, like contemporary Japanese, it's actually gone from being more back to more centralized. Could be wrong on that. Anybody who knows, correct me. Feel free. We also have the A and O vowels, which will write E and O. We also have the closed back vowel, A, and the closed front vowel, A. So, for instance, this is the vowel in like the English words bat or bad or crap. That's actually it's called the trap vowel, and then this is like uh, this is a sound that like So think of like a British person saying the letter R, ah, a very posh British person saying the letter O. Again, my horrible attempt at a British accent. And so here uh, this is the schwa sound. It's a mid-central vowel. It's the sound that it exists in unstressed English vowels. So like the sound. Um, so we're actually going to take the close midsection out in this. So you can see. So now we have eight, right? We have an eight vowel system, uh, which is relatively normal. Although I think this is more sounds than the majority of world might have. But some of those have very few languages, have very few sounds. Like Hawaiian had like 13, uh, 13 different phonemes, which is not many. English has way more than way more than this too. English has like 19 different vowel sounds. But we're not going to use all of those because that's a lot of vowels to remember and also to figure out how you're going to write. So let's make a few words. My process for this is just making them up. Just think about something in my brain sounds neat with the phonology. So let's see. Let's see. You know, you know. Yeah, that's neat. Um, hmm. do like the Turkish lookingness of it, or not Turkish. Really, was more like I don't know, Albanian written in the Latin alphabet or something. Um, oh, I actually do want to add one uh, sound, the, the A sound. Gonna copy German and writing that with the AU mouth. So you know, you know. Do I like that? Sure, we'll go with it. Um, Yak. What's flip gonna mean? We're gonna make that mean child, and that is going to mean uh, which sometimes I like to take words from like English slang, like for instance, if you might see somebody yakking, if synonym for yapping, speaking, take that. So word for speak. Let's see. Next word is going to be oru. That's going to mean uh, that is going to mean I don't know. We're going to leave that for later. I'm going to decide what that means later. Let's see. Let's see. We need a let's come up with a word ish. So we want it to be a word that evokes water sounds without singing too much. Uh, biff, 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 fish. It sounds a little bit watery, a little bit like water, which is what we want. So let's see. Actually, you know what? No, I want to copy isolate a little bit more and add some more things in our cases. We're also going to mark minutes. For those of you that might not have had a grammar class in a while, uh, definiteness is whether you would use uh, the article be or a. Right? So, right, the apple fell from the tree. So the apple, that would be in the definite nominative singular. Fell from the tree. That would be in the, I mean, definite accusative singular. Right? Or if I wanted to say some kids bicycling, right? Kid would be in the singular, one kid, indefinite, genitive, because it's possessed. Right? Uh, right? uh, or if I wanted to say some people's language, That would be indefinite plural, and that would be indefinite plural genitive. Okay? People, plural. Peoples, right? That means it's genitive. And some means it's indefinite. Some people's language. People, person is in indefinite plural genitive. All right, so that's cases sorted out. We have a few example words, not enough. We have a few. Now we gotta decide how verbs work. Verbs. Verbs are the most complicated part of any language. Most languages have them. Some people argue that every language has them. I'm not one of those people, uh, but I do think that very nearly every language has verbs. Every natural language definitely has verbs. Almost all constructed languages have verbs. Very hard to make languages. I know because I tried. So verbs can encode a lot of information, and in various languages they encode way more information than they do in, say, English. In English, verbs actually encode very little information. Uh, English verbs have tense, which in English is past, non-past. You may think English has a past, present, and a future tense, but that's not actually true linguistically. Um, the future in English is marked with auxiliary constructions, not on the actual verb itself. It has to be on the actual root verb itself for it to count as a tense in the linguistic sense, at least in the sense of morphology, which is what we're doing here. English verbs have and they also have subject marking, but their subject marking is very, very simple. Is right. So, for instance, eat, right? So, subject marking. So if it's right in the third person singular form, so if you see 3F, 3S, or 3SG, that means third person singular, you have eats. In anything else, you have eat. Some dialects, this this is lost entirely, and so you just have all eat. So English barely has any form of subject marking. The only time it ever has any is when it's the third person singular. Even that is being lost. So, uh, so, but in other languages like Spanish or French, they have sensible subject marking systems where they actually mark a lot more information about the subject. Like in Spanish, in German and French, there's a different form of a verb whether it's first person singular or plural, second person singular or plural, or third person singular or plural. And then the third person, um, there are different forms, but um, I don't recall if there are different forms for feminine versus masculine in any of those languages. I know in some languages there are, just not in any of the ones that I know. Um, so, how are we going to have grammatical gender? Oh, so speaking of grammatical gender is something I'm going to go into later when I decide whether or not I have it. So but we can also mark other things. Aspect. Aspect is related to how the verb happens in time. So, for instance, you can have um, a like a perfected aspect, right, which is viewing the action as a like a singular point in time. So if you say like I went to the store, that is an example of a perfective conjunction. Or like I don't know, it's sort of difficult in English because English verbs are weird. But yeah. Then you have the continuous aspect, right? Like or, like I am walking, right? Or progressive. You also hear other things like it's called progressive aspect because, anyways, um, right. So I am walking denotes that like the action is ongoing and it's seen as part of the process. Um, right. So, for instance, if somebody says a sentence, "I walked to the store," you might expect that to be followed up by what happened when they got to the store. If they're telling the story, you hear somebody say, "I was walking to the store." You would expect to hear something about what happened while they were walking to the store. That's the difference between those two aspects. There are also a lot more. Uh, Navajo has like 11 different aspects at least. And there's also I think so you do. Uh, so for our language, I think I'm going to go with past, present, and future, like they have in most languages. Not most languages. Most. I think it's actually more common not to mark tense at all, like in Chinese, uh, than to mark tense uh, aspect. Perfective and imperfective. That's it. Person number. So number just says singular or plural. Person means first, second, or third person. Third the subject marking. Let's see. So um, evidentiality. So seen, um, worded, inferred, other. So we're gonna. So evidentiality is marking that goes on the verb, or can be. It can go on the verb. It can also be its own separate thing. That tell that, but it's like a specific grammatical thing that you see in, for example, Turkish. That tells you what kind of evidence the speaker has for the sentence that they're saying. So did they see it firsthand? So for instance, if you're telling something, like he's like, I was at the beach and there was a shark. Uh, you would hope that they saw the shark, but in the case that, for instance, they didn't actually see the shark, but they just heard somebody say there was a shark, then you would use the reported instead of the seen. So you would know whether the speaker was talking about something that they actually saw themselves, or that they just heard from somebody else, or if it's something that they just inferred or kind of like guessed, assumed. So I think this is all the markings we're going to have on our verbs. And so let's see. So you can see that this is actually going to give us a very large number of different conjugations for every verb. And so I'm just going to make a quick table. So let's see, aspect. So we have so that's 6, and that's 36 times 3, which is Yes, we're going to have every verb is going to have 108 different conjugations. So this is why language learning is hard, actually, because some languages actually have way more than this. But if you ever want to, you ever want to get inspiration on kinds of things to do with this, you can go on Wiktionary and look up random word on a random language, random verb in a random language, and it'll give you the conjugation tables. Those. Um, so going to should have done that before I did. All right. Now let's see. Yeah, merge all of these together. Uh, we're going to center all of these. Just a second. With this, and I'm going to make that centered. Where's the vertical center? Is vertically centered here. Horizontally centered. Yeah, that's what I want. This. Let's see. 18, yeah. No, I'm not trying. We're not going to make those larger. So yeah, now we have our tables. So we can get rid of this bit. We have the table. Our verbs have a lot to do. Get a lot going on with the verbs. That's actually really. Um, so I think that's. You know, I have anything else? Yeah, so I think that's going to be about it today. Um, Next time we are going to start actually creating the forms for the cases and the conjugations, um, and some more example words. And we're going to talk about next time. We're going to talk about how these cases evolve and come about. Uh, so next time are and in the meantime, I'm going to pretty up our charts. So that is uh, that is about it. And so thanks everyone for watching. And that's going to be the end of this stream.